This video will be divided in 3 sections. A first one, where I explain how I got the information that is present in this video. A second one, where I show the information that I got and give some little opinions on it. But then the last one, where I explain why we really need to address the information. And a few people who've been following my channel know that I've done a troll video on Lavencas in the past. But don't worry, this one is going to be taken seriously. And the first section may seem with a lot of place, but trust me, it's the most fun part watching the video. It's the only part that is not to be fully taken seriously, but I think you'll enjoy it. I'm guessing that for a lot of you, that part will just feel like a troll section. And if you're not at all interested in that, you can skip to chapter 3 if you want. And you can expect a tone shift in this video because things are gonna get more serious, trust me. I will be cracking some jokes throughout the video to make it more entertaining, but in the most serious sections I will not make any joke, I will take them seriously. Keep that in mind. And so, without further ado, let's get to the investigation process. After the people in the Lavencas server watched my first video, they got the funny reactions I was looking for. I was planning on making another one, but then I realized that the people in the server were trying really hard to make sure I didn't get any response if I ever made a second one. But when I was ready to fully scrap the idea of making a Lavencas video, one of my friends said this in the voice call. You know, if you want to do any sort of serious commentary in the future, then you should try doing it now, just for practice. So the challenge was set, and the plan was now in motion. From the days I spent on that server, I got some valuable information, namely the fact that there was a secret general chat, which I did not know how to access. More than that, I figured out that some people had a special role called ASD, which is probably the thing that gave them access to general. After the first video came out, one of the people from the server told me about the general chat, which is supposedly closed for being way too edgy, and more importantly, told me that the people who get it are the ones who are recommended by the ASD people, which gave me an idea.
What do you think?
Whoa, very nice. Look at that.
I started by creating a few throwaway accounts, which were used to study how the ASD people acted and talked. This was not difficult, considering almost every edgy anime fan talks and thinks the same way, so I quickly figured out how I wanted my character to be, if I want to get into general fast. I designed a character that had the profile of a loser, acted like a loser, and talked like a loser in almost every fucking way. First, I needed an anime girl profile picture, but this was difficult to choose because I have barely watched any anime, and looking up anime girl on Google and just picking the first results would be suspicious and would probably get me banned. But luckily, I managed to remember an anime girl from an anime that I actually liked, so I just set her as my profile picture. But I still needed my tag to be realistic, so I decided to blend the name of the anime girl with the name of a Pokemon that makes furries horny. And that's when Misavoir was born. It's no secret that the people that you keep in your circle are influenced by you, and you are influenced by them as well. So the people in the Lavencas server, who she chooses to associate herself with the most, can really say a lot about her character. Once I got into general, I knew from the very beginning I was in the right place to start digging. At first glance, the thing that pops up the most is that the edgy people talk here literally all day, every day, and their conversation topics can range from very cringy to kinda messed up. But let's start with the basics. First of all, as I claimed before, this chat is way more edgy and active. The amount of messages in the public chat, aka Isaac General, is a bit less than 1/5 of the ones in the real General. However, let me list a few things. The R word is used over 10 times more in the private chat. There are no rape jokes in the public chat, however in the private chat there is a surprisingly high amount. There are also no Hitler or anti-Semite jokes in the public chat. In the private chat, however, I'll get into that later. And last but not least, there have always been jokes about pedophilia, but in the private chat they are so much more recurrent, it's incredible. Especially regarding the use of the word cunny, which, in case you don't know, is another way of saying child pussy. And I'd personally like to tackle a few of these issues. And listen, I won't really ramble a lot about the use of the R-word, because I know it's fully normalized on the internet, and that a lot of us just grew up during the epic and edgy 2016 commentary era of YouTube. So I'm not gonna pretend that it's really shocking when edgy people use the R-word on the internet. But I can still point out the fact that this discrepancy is huge, which maybe, just maybe, indicates that these people know that there's something wrong with what they're saying, but that it would be bad if everyone knew they said it. But this also goes for all the other things. Anti-Semite jokes? Not a single one in public. In private though? And I'm gonna be honest, I'm a fan of shock humor. If it's a well thought out joke, unlike the ones they make, then I will probably laugh. But there are a few topics that I've always considered to be over the line, even in my edgy 12-year-old 2016 leaf his ear phase, and that topic is quite honestly rape. The thing about these rape related topics, like obviously rape and also pedophilia, is that they really stop being funny once it happens to your mom or your sister. I honestly think that rape sets the benchmark for how disgusting humor can be. It's actually so fucking tasteless, and it's weird how adults laugh at this. You'd expect a 12-year-old to laugh at this kind of humor, not a 22-year-old. And the sad part is that these jokes are just the tip of the iceberg in what comes to weird behavior in this server. But I'd like to still talk about these jokes for a little. Throughout my time in the server, I reached the conclusion that when your friends go on and on about how pedophilia is funny, they really just end up repeating the same fucking joke, which usually just goes like, I love cunny, I am a pedo. Don't worry, we're all pedos, ha ha ha. I post CP in private, ha ha ha. Did you laugh yet? Because I sure didn't. In fact, I'd like to believe the average person sees a problem here, because this is the least funny shit on planet Earth. If someone pointed a gun at my head and forced me to laugh at this, I would literally just pull the trigger for them. I'd unironically rather watch all the Amy Schumer comedy specials back to back than spend another month in this shitty fucking server. I'd even rather watch every single video in the Bubu64 channel than, okay, let's not go that far. But you get the point. By the point you're watching this, I'm definitely banned from the server. I just kept my account there because I needed to see if someone said something really stupid worth keeping in this video. And trust me, they did. But as I've said before, there's not much you can say about Lavencas here. And even if this isn't necessarily about Lavencas, I'd like to say that if she was responsible, she would know that over 18 people cannot talk about adult topics with children. And of course, I'm not saying anyone in specific is getting groomed. But this server is exactly the place for a groomer to hide. That's why your average Discord server will ban these talks if they know that most of their community is under 18. And take your own conclusions. But I think it's weird that the policy to get into general is not age but maturity. Is there anything creepy going on? I don't know, you tell me. Take your own conclusions based on the information I just gave you. But know that in the next chapter, thanks to the help of a witness, I will be diving deeper on this topic. And without further ado, let's get into it.
Calm down, let's not let your heart.
Oh, one last change. Pero ni diga moment.
This is the part you've all been waiting for. This is where I took the extra mile with the digging, and the amount of shit that I found doesn't even have place in this video would make a second video on its own. So, I just like to begin with the point that I left off. Pedophilia jokes. I've talked about her friends, but Lavencas herself isn't a stranger to them. As you can see in her old Reddit account, which you can find through her public links, at the age of 17 she said this following sentence, and I quote, "I might be a little upset with myself fucking the kid, but I just kill it afterwards." Once again, just edgy and unfunny, but at the age of 17, which would usually make it acceptable. Obviously, I can't blame a minor for being edgy, but the fact of the matter is, Lavencas herself, at the age of 22, is still making jokes about raping children. And the fact that such a vile joke has been going on for half a decade is extremely weird to say the least. But the weird behavior that goes on in this community does not end here. And you probably remember how I said that with the help of a witness, I would be diving deeper into the question, is there anything creepy going on behind the scenes? Well, this may be surprising to some, but according to my witness, the answer to this question is yes. The witness in question used to have access to the Toho channel, in which they claimed there is literal lolly porn being posted around minors. Not ironic humor, not jokes, lolly nudity. Literal. If this is true, then Lavencas is quite literally allowing grooming to happen in their server. In a case like this, I have no real way of proving if that is actually true, because since I am over 18, looking for CP in someone's server doesn't paint a good picture. But the fact that I have witnesses, and I also have these very interesting statements about the person that the witness told me about, really makes this statement as believable as I can make it. But I understand if you're still not convinced. Don't worry, I wasn't either. But then I started digging. I looked through some old messages, and then I found this. Over here we can see an exchange between a minor and an adult. The adult suggests sharing porn, and the minor says, "Not here, in the Toho channel," to which the adult replies jokingly, "No, I can't, because this is CP." But then she gets a DM from the adult and says, "I'm not about to open that in class." So the adult folds and deletes the DMs. What the hell just happened there? In two instances, there is basically proof that this adult is sending pornography to minors. First, when he didn't want to send it in general, so the minor suggested the Toho channel, which and then the minor legitimately didn't want to open her DMs in public, which basically proves that she thought it could be pornography. Mind, this was the exact guy that the witness told me about. This specific guy, which is also a close friend of Lavencas. So to say that Lavencas does not know about this is absolutely ridiculous. Let me repeat to make sure we're all on the same page. A kid, without seeing the DMs, is scared that it might be porn, considering the person that sent it, which is an adult, which proves that this adult sends porn to minors, which falls under grooming, and Lavencas, as a close friend and the owner of the server, allows this. And since we're still on the topic, let's take a look at the statements I showed you a minute ago. The one on the right is especially interesting in my opinion. This was Lavencas' response to an old member of the server leaving, allegedly because of pedophilia related topics. Whether that was statements or literal cunny posting, I cannot confirm. But you're probably already seeing what I see. Everything, and I mean literally everything, points to the same idea. And I'll get back to this, but first I'd like to ask Lavencas a few questions. First of all, at what point did you start finding the topic of fucking child pussy funny? I don't wanna go on too much of a tangent here, but where is the line that we draw for jokes? Dark and shock humor are funny at times, I admit it, but we can't just say depraved shit like "I like to rape children" and just hide behind edginess all the fucking time. And your friends posting fake pics of them watching CP and saying jokingly that they actually watch it, really doesn't paint a good picture now, does it? How far do you intend on taking this joke? What are you gonna say next? The witness that I got was part of the joke as well, and it's all just a goof for the world to believe that there's actually something creepy going on behind the scenes, but there actually isn't? Like, haha, you got us, now we think you and your friends are groomers, we fell for it. What are you trying to accomplish if this is all a joke? You are quite literally doing everything to look like a fucking pedophile. Unless this isn't actually a joke, and is more like a semi-ironic way to just hide what's actually happening. But putting it simply, I really only see two options here. Option 1. All the evidence makes sense, and there is indeed CP being shared in this server, which is being allowed by Lavencas. Or option 2. There isn't CP at all, and even though the members of the server send pornography to minors, they draw the line at sending lolly porn to the Toho channel, which would imply that my witness is lying, any rumors that you may have heard are also false, and even though many members of the community, especially a selected group of individuals, are trying really hard to present themselves as people who share CP, they actually do not share CP at all. Now, is it more credible that they are sharing CP and talking about it because this is a safe space to do so, which would make sense considering the fact that it is indeed a safe space to share pornography with minors? Or is it more credible that all of this, literally all of this, is nothing more than an elaborate joke to make this entire community look like a bunch of pedophiles? But whatever the case may be, Lavencas allows adults to send pornography to minors, which means that the verdict is guilty as fuck, obviously. Even without a reasonable doubt on the planet, this server, led by Lavencas, is just full on creepy. I rest my case on this specific topic, but there's still a lot to say. And since we're still on the topic of edgy humor, I'd like to add that Lavencas herself is a big fan of anti-Semitic jokes. Much like the pedophilia jokes, she doesn't make them a lot in public. But these aren't the only instances when either Lavencas or someone in that close group goes a little, mask off. I really need to be careful in this part to not get anyone doxxed, but just note that in one of Lavencas' older videos, there's a visible Discord overlay with the name of two of her friends. If you look both of them up on Google, you'll find an Instagram, which belongs to a pale-skinned kid who knows Lavencas in real life. First of all, this friend of hers really just has fantastic pictures on his Instagram. Like this one, where he's just holding his phone, looking at a mirror, drawing a huge fucking swastika. I mean, what else did you expect? The fact that her in real life friends are comfortable posting pictures like this, and that her whole Discord community is obsessed with anti-Semitism humor. I mean, you know what I'm gonna say. Hey, but maybe Lavencas is just a neutral observer here, who would not want her name anywhere near this guy's opinions, right? I mean, yeah, maybe that's the case. Just kidding, I wouldn't be making a video if that was the fucking case. Let's talk about it. Remember all Lavencas' Reddit was called Castlemaster 712? Well, as it turns out, if you look that name on YouTube, you'll find Lavencas' older channel, which contains videos that are as old as 11 years. But one of them, just from 3 years ago, is called Knight the Mario Master. Knight obviously refers to the name of her friend, which I will not fully show, but just know that Knight is the guy behind the controller, and is also the guy talking throughout the whole video. But the interesting thing is, if you go to the 50th second, there is an interesting line. Let me play it.
Croniga moments.
Wait, did I hear that right?
Croniga moments.
What it seems is that the person who was behind the controller, who is pale-skinned mind you, said the N-word. And it didn't seem like Lavencas was upset at all. In fact, she was the one who uploaded the video and even added something to it. Which, if you haven't got there yet, basically means that she's fully comfortable with uploading this guy's ideas under her name. Which is in itself very shitty behavior, but don't take it from me, take it from Lavencas herself. On August the 3rd, asked Lavencas this very simple question: under what circumstances can you say the F word? To which I got the response, and I quote, You can say the F word if you're part of the LGBTQ community. It's how life works. This means that Lavencas believes there is a bijection between being able to say a slur that hurts a community and being part of that community. But that brings us to the obvious conclusion that through Lavencas' own line of reasoning, she must consider her friend racist. Him being white and saying the N-word is nothing more than, by her own standards, a racist act. But this really isn't about her friend, this is about her. You can confirm through her Reddit that she's also white, she's the owner of this YouTube channel, which made her an adult in charge of all the creative decisions. And since Lavencas is probably watching this, I'd like to ask her a question. If you were in charge of everything, and you just saw a racist act, then why did you upload it in your name? Seriously, you even added something to it. The bottom line here really just resides in this question. What do you call someone who allows racism, platforms racism, and even encourages it by trying to make it funnier? I once again will ask you this question. What is more credible? 1. That she's racist? Or 2. That she makes out of line racist jokes, that people close to her are racist, and that she allows, platforms, and encourages racism, even though she's not racist? Doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But in order to make my argument just a bit more decisive, I'd like to question just one more thing. Is it normal that communities like this just seem to form around Lavencas? I mean, really, a few years ago she had a friend who said the N-word on camera and also liked to post pictures posing next to swastikas. And right now, her friends just seem to really like anti-Semitic humor. Now tell me, is it a coincidence that these anti-Semitic communities just seem to form around her? Or is it more credible that it's Lavencas who picks these people? I rest my case. Before I start dumping the information present in my last point, I'd like to ask you for a reasonable opinions as the viewers. If you want, you can just write your answer in the comments right away, or you can just think about it for yourself. But either way, I'd like to know, how would you act if a kid made fun of you? By kid here, I mean a minor who is considerably younger than you. So even if you're a minor yourself, you can give me an honest answer. Did you think about it? Good. Your answer may vary based on what kind of person you are. But, in my opinion, the only reasonable answer is to either correct them or ignore them. The truth is, when you're dealing with someone who is quite clearly less mature than you, then there's no reason to feel threatened by what they say. You, as the older person, are quite clearly in the position of power. And you may be wondering why I'm going in this tangent. The fact of the matter is, as I was investigating in general, I started asking people questions. And through those questions, I ended up hearing a story that is very much relevant to the tangent I was talking about. The story that you're about to hear was told to me in private, and I will not share the name or the profile picture of the person in question. However, if the truthfulness of my statements is put into question, I'll be happy to release all the prints with proper consent from the victim. The person to which this section is referring to was not aware of the fact that they were talking to me. They believed they were talking to a random person in the server who also seemed to dislike Castle just as much as them. And I just want to say that the next chapter is to be fully taken seriously. I'm gonna keep a firm tone and not do any sort of jokes. Let's get into it then. Earlier this year, a 16-year-old who shall only be referred to as M for no particular reason, was added to Lavencas' Steam friend list. M, just for the heck of it, looked at Lavencas' screenshots. In one of them, it was possible to find an old username that belonged to Lavencas herself. So, just out of general curiosity, M looked the name up on Google and found an old DeviantArt that belonged to Lavencas. M thought that if they put one of the pictures as their Twitter banner, then them and Lavencas would strike a nice conversation. However though, this heavily backfired on M, and what was said in the conversation was not disclosed to me. But, one thing is for sure, the conversation was not nice at all. In that conversation, M was insulted as Lavencas tried to make her feel guilty. As a consequence, M left the Lavencas server. But they still had a boyfriend there, so they proceeded to create a new account under a different name in order to talk to him. Some time later though, Lavencas found out about his other account and proceeded to insult M one last time before banning them for good. But the story does not end there. This time, Lavencas went after M's boyfriend and as a consequence got him to break up with M and even block them altogether. M described this day as crushing, and I don't want to go on too much detail, but they did not react well to this. Although I cannot confirm everything that was said in the story, it is quite visible that no one in this community is in good terms with them. And before anyone in the community attempts to further attack M, I will stress this point again. Much like everyone in the server, M did not know who they were really talking to. But one thing I can assure you, the moment I heard the story and I heard how they felt about it, M stopped talking to Misavor or to Bubu64 and started talking to the real person behind both characters. A project that started out as a game turned to something extremely serious, something I did not expect. I have all the sympathy for M as well as all the other people who have suffered from similar issues. As for Lavencas, I do not understand why she would react like this. As a 22-year-old, she was in the clear position of power and had absolutely no reason to act like this. Even if she was angry at first, she had all the reason to apologize later. But that apology never came, and in fact, once she had another opportunity, she went way further with her actions. And if Lavencas was 16, like the person she attacked for no apparent reason, then we'd all just be telling her to grow up. But that is not the case. Lavencas was 22 at the time of these events. And how old is too old to justify this kind of behavior through emotional immaturity? What I truly believe is that this community is just straight up awful. And if you're still somehow not convinced, there's one more detail I'd like to share. As you can see in this exchange, one of Lavencas' close friends is proudly talking about how they bullied a guy who did not have much going for him. Need I say more? Most of the things I will say in this section may seem obvious to some of you, but it's still important for me to talk about them. If you're familiar with Lavencas content, you can quite definitely see that it's directed towards all ages. And if you join their Discord server, you can clearly see that most of the population there is somewhere between 14 and 18. With that in mind, the fact that people in this server are okay with bullying kids, sending them porn, and just being straight up awful in general, makes the scenario a whole lot worse. And I don't think I need to explain that being bullied or groomed is just straight up terrible for their development. So if you're under 18 in this server, my honest advice to you is to leave and not look back. Seriously, you have nothing to gain from being in this server. There are other ISO communities that are not as harmful as this one. Please leave. This server is the exact reason why police officers come to your school to talk about internet safety. It's not worth being there. And even if you were to ignore everything that I said in this video, you at least have to listen to this. The people in this server are terrible influences. And that becomes increasingly clear the more time you spend in general. And if you're a kid in the general chat, you may not realize it, but these people are poorly influencing you. The fact that adults enable you to say depraved shit and even encourage you is not good for you. If you're still not convinced, I highly advise you to take a look at the adults in this server and ask a simple question. Do I want to be like that when I'm their age? And then take a few steps back and think how you were before you joined the server. And another thing is that since I started making this video, Lavencas got about 60,000 subscribers. And a lot of them are kids who will join their Discord server. The fact is, Every time you open a Lavencas video, it's more likely to be recommended to someone else. And the more popular the videos get, the more people join her server, which is what we're trying to avoid. So, if I have one request with this video, is for you to stop watching her channel. This is not about a personal vendetta, it's about making YouTube a safer place. This has been Bubu64 on the truth about Lavencas and her community. Thank you so much for watching. I'm guessing that some of the people who were featured in this video will be kind of angry or kind of annoyed at least. If you've got an opinion or if you want to make a point, feel free to leave it in the comments. If you want to disprove any of the claims, feel free to. But once again, all the statements are backed by a witness or screenshots, so be my guest. Other than that, constructive criticism will always be welcome in the comments. Just know that our definitions of constructive might diverge. And I just want to say to BD1P that I am very sorry for not taking your advice. I know that you understand more about this than I do, but I was under some pressure to release this video and I felt like the product I had was already somewhat good enough. And if you genuinely feel like you can say what I said in this video but in a more organized way, then feel free to make a video yourself. I'm serious. To everyone else, make sure to like, subscribe and share this video with all your friends. But chances are, if the Bubu64 channel was recommended to you, you probably don't have any. Have a good one.